I, 28M, am currently sitting on the balcony of a rental property that I officially own, watching a flatbed tow truck pull away with a brand new metallic blue Tesla Model S Plaid. My sister, 24F, is currently standing in her driveway, screaming at the top of her lungs, while two police officers explain to her that, "But he's my brother," isn't a valid legal defense for unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. It's funny. She always said she wanted a car that would turn heads. Well, the neighbors are definitely looking now. The stage for this disaster was set 6 months ago when our grandfather passed away. He was a man of simple tastes but significant assets, and in his will, he left me a specific sum of $150,000 intended for future stability. My sister, who has spent her entire life treating other people's bank accounts like her personal ATM, received a smaller portion because, in my grandfather's words, she had already spent her inheritance while he was still alive through constant emergencies and rent assistance. The conflict escalated 3 weeks ago. My grandfather's estate was finally being settled, and the check was supposed to be mailed to the family home where my sister still lives. I live 3 states away for work, so I told her to keep an eye out for the certified mail. "Don't worry," she told me over the phone, her voice dripping with that fake, sugary sweetness she uses when she's about to screw someone over. "I'll put it in the safe the second it gets here. You can trust me." I didn't trust her. I checked the tracking number. The check was delivered on a Tuesday. On Wednesday, I called her. She didn't pick up. On Thursday, she sent me a text saying she was feeling under the weather and would talk to me later. On Friday, I saw her Instagram story. It was a video of her in a showroom, a giant red bow on top of a $110,000 Tesla. The caption read, "Finally treated myself to the life I deserve. Hard work pays off. Hashtag Tesla life, hashtag new beginnings, hashtag blessed." I felt the blood drain from my face. I called the estate lawyer. "Did you issue the check to sister's name?" I asked, my voice shaking. "No," the lawyer said, sounding confused. "The check was made out to you, but someone called claiming to be your representative, saying you wanted to use the funds to execute a direct purchase for a vehicle as part of an investment strategy. They provided a mobile deposit authorization and a scanned copy of your ID. She hadn't just taken the check. She had committed full-blown identity theft. She'd scanned my old passport from the family safe, forged my signature on a mobile deposit, and then used the investment excuse to funnel the money into a dealership. But here's where her entitlement met her stupidity. Because the money was legally mine, and because she had used my identity to make the purchase, the dealership had registered the car. To get the tax credits and the investment benefits she bragged about to the lawyer, the title of the car was issued in my name. She was listed as a permitted driver on the temporary insurance, but the ownership, the actual legal deed to that $110,000 piece of machinery, was 100% mine. I didn't call her. I didn't scream. I didn't even leave her a comment on her blessed post. Instead, I boarded a plane. When I landed, I went straight to the local DMV and the police station. I showed them the will, the estate lawyer's statement, and my very much alive and non-consenting self. I explained that a vehicle had been purchased in my name without my consent using stolen funds. "Do you want to report the identity theft and have her arrested?" the officer asked. I looked at a photo of my sister grinning next to her new toy. If I had her arrested for the fraud now, the car would be impounded as evidence, and the money would be tied up in a legal battle for years. I'd be broke while the lawyers ate my grandfather's legacy. "No," I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. "I don't want to report the fraud yet. I just want to report my car is stolen. I have the title, the bill of sale is in my name, and the person driving it does not have my permission to be in possession of my property." The officer looked at the paperwork. "Well, if the title is in your name and you say it's stolen, it's stolen. We'll put out a bolo for the plates." I went to a hotel, ordered a steak, and waited. The dirty trick she tried next was almost impressive. That evening, she called me, sounding frantic. "Hey, so weird thing. The bank called about Grandpa's check. There's a glitch. They might lock the funds for a bit. Don't freak out, I'm handling it." "Oh, really?" I said, watching the GPS tracker I'd activated through the Tesla app on my phone. She was at a high-end mall. "Thanks for looking out for me. By the way, how's the new car?" The silence on the other end was deafening. "What car?" The one on your Instagram. The one you bought with my money. I got a loan, she shrieked, her voice shifting from sweet sister to cornered rat in a heartbeat. I'm using my own money. You're always so jealous of me. Just because you're the successful one doesn't mean I can't have nice things. Enjoy the mall, sissy, I said and hung up. I watched the map. She left the mall and headed to a trendy wine bar. I called the police non-emergency line and gave them her exact coordinates. The vehicle is currently in the parking lot of the Velvet Vine, I told them. The driver is a female, blonde, likely acting entitled. Please recover my property. I drove over there just in time to see the blue lights. The police blocked her in just as she was trying to pull out of the lot. She hopped out of the car, looking indignant. Is there a problem, officer? I heard her yell from across the street. I haven't even had 2 drinks. This is harassment. Ma'am, step away from the vehicle, the officer said. This car has been reported stolen. Stolen? That's impossible. I bought this. This is my car. The owner, your brother, says otherwise, the officer replied, gesturing toward me as I stepped out of the shadows. The look of pure, unadulterated shock on her face was better than any inheritance. But the entitlement? Oh, it wasn't dead yet. She actually tried to run toward me to explain, but the officer held her back. Tell them, she screamed at me. Tell them it's a joke. You gave me the money. We had a deal. We never had a deal, I said, leaning against a lamp post. You stole a check, forged my name, and bought a car I didn't authorize. Since my name is on the title, I'm just here to pick up my keys. You're a monster, she wailed. I'll tell Mom. I'll tell everyone you're trying to put me on the street. I'm not putting you on the street, I said, taking the keys from the officer. I'm putting you in a Uber, which you'll have to pay for yourself, because I'm also freezing the secondary credit card you've been borrowing for 3 years. I got into the Tesla. The smell of new leather and my sister's expensive perfume filled the cabin. I adjusted the seat, put it in sport mode, and drove away, leaving her standing in the parking lot of a wine bar she couldn't afford, watching her blessed life disappear over the horizon. But the real revenge? That was just part 1. The drive back to my hotel in my new Tesla was the smoothest ride of my life. But I knew the peace wouldn't last. By the time I checked into my room, my phone was a glowing brick of resentment. My mother had left 14 voicemails, each one escalating from "let's talk about this" to "how could you do this to your sister?" I ignored them and called the dealership. Hi, I'm the legal owner of the Model S Plaid purchased 2 days ago, I told the manager. There's been a change in investment strategy. I'd like to return the car. It has less than 50 miles on it. The manager groaned. Sir, once it leaves the lot, it's a used vehicle. You're looking at a 20% hit on the value immediately. I understand, I said. But given the circumstances of the unauthorized purchase, I think we can find a middle ground where I don't involve the police in a fraud investigation against your sales rep, who accepted a scanned ID and a forged mobile deposit. There was a long pause. Bring it in tomorrow morning. We'll talk. While I was planning the return, my sister decided to launch a counteroffensive. She didn't call me. Instead, she went to our mother and spun a tale of financial abuse. According to her, I had promised her the money as a gift for her business startup, but I had snapped and decided to take it back to control her. My mother, who has always viewed my sister as a permanent victim of the world's unfairness, fell for it hook, line, and sinker. She called me at midnight, her voice shaking with disappointment. You have always been the strong one, my mother said. You have your career. You have your savings. Your sister has nothing. Why are you trying to crush her? Just give her the car. It's what your grandfather would have wanted. Grandpa left that money to me because he knew she'd set it on fire, I reminded her. She didn't ask for a gift. She stole a certified check and committed identity theft. Do you realize that if I weren't her brother, she'd be in an orange jumpsuit right now? She's just impulsive, my mother cried. She was excited. She thought you'd be happy for her. She thought I was an easy mark, I corrected. I'm returning the car tomorrow. Whatever cash is left goes back into my high-yield account. And Mom, if you keep defending her, you're next on the no-contact list. The next morning I was at the dealership. I walked out with a check for $92,000. I had lost about $18,000 in the transaction, but I considered that a peace of mind tax. I still had the remaining $40,000 from the original inheritance that she hadn't managed to spend yet because the bank had flagged the secondary transfer. I thought that was the end of it. I was ready to fly home. But my sister had one more dirty trick up her sleeve. She knew I was at a hotel. She knew I had the refund check. While I was at the dealership, she used a spare key to my mother's car, drove to my hotel, and convinced the front desk clerk that she was my wife who had locked her bag in the room. The entitlement was so deep she didn't even think about the security cameras. She went into my room, tore it apart looking for the check, and when she couldn't find it, because it was in my pocket, she decided to destroy my luggage. She shredded my suits, smashed my laptop, and poured a bottle of red wine over my bed. I walked into the room to find her sitting in the wreckage, breathing hard, looking like a character from a horror movie. "Where is it?" she snarled. "Where's the money?" "In a place you'll never touch," I said, pulling out my phone and hitting the record button. "And thank you for this. Truly." "For what?" "I didn't take anything. You can't prove I was here." I pointed to the laptop she'd smashed. That laptop had the only copy of my work for the last quarter. The value of the hardware and the intellectual property damage is well over $5,000. "That's a felony, sissy." She laughed. It was a high, shrill sound. "You won't call the cops. Mom would never forgive you. You're the good son. Remember? You have to take the high road." "I'm done with the high road," I said. "The high road is crowded with people who let themselves get robbed by their own blood. I'm taking the expressway." I didn't call my mother. I called the hotel manager and the police. Again. This time there was no stolen car middle ground. There was a trashed room, a smashed laptop, and a witness at the front desk. As the police were handcuffing her, she started her star performance, sobbing about how I was abusing her. "He's hit me before," she lied to the officer. "Look at my wrist." He grabbed me. The officer looked at her wrist. It was clear of any marks. Then he looked at me. I handed him my phone with the recording of her sitting in the wreckage, screaming about the money, perfectly healthy and unassaulted. "Ma'am," the officer said, "you have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it." As they let her out of the lobby, she spotted my mother pulling into the driveway. My mother jumped out of the car looking horrified. "What are you doing?" my mother screamed at me. "Let her go. She's your sister." "She's a criminal, Mom," I said, picking up a piece of my ruined laptop. "And if you bail her out using Grandpa's house as collateral, I'm calling the estate lawyer to inform him that you're misusing family assets. This ends today." I walked past them, checked out of the hotel, and went to the airport. I didn't look back at the flashing lights or the sound of my mother sobbing. I had $132,000 left, a clean conscience, and a very clear understanding of who my family really was. A week after returning home, the dust should have settled. Instead, it became a sandstorm. My sister, out on bail thanks to my mother's secret savings, decided to go for the ultimate weapon: TikTok. She posted a "Get ready with me. My brother is suing me" video. It had a somber filter, sad acoustic music, and her dabbing at her eyes with a designer tissue. She claimed I was a bitter, wealthy tech bro who was using my inheritance to crush a young female entrepreneur because I was threatened by her success. It went viral. 2 million views in 48 hours. I started getting hate mail on my LinkedIn. People were calling my office, demanding I be fired for financial abuse. My boss called me into a meeting. "Look, I know this is a family matter," my boss said, "but your name is associated with our firm. This influencer stuff is a PR nightmare. Fix it or we have to distance ourselves." My sister thought she'd won. She sent me a text. "The internet hates you. Give me $50,000 to clear my name, and I'll take the video down." It's a bargain, honestly. I didn't reply. I called my lawyer. "How's the discovery going on her business?" "It's a goldmine of fraud," he said. "She's been claiming the startup is a registered LLC for tax breaks, but the LLC was dissolved 2 years ago for non-payment. Also, she's been using your name as a silent partner on her lease for her high-end studio space." I felt a cold grin spread across my face. She's using my name for the lease? Yep. Forged your electronic signature. I didn't ask her to take the video down. I didn't pay the $50,000. Instead, I contacted TikTok's legal department with a notarized affidavit and copies of the police reports for the identity theft and the hotel vandalism. Her account was banned for violating the harassment and criminal activity guidelines within 6 hours. Then I went for the studio. Since my name was on the lease and she was behind on the rent, of course she was, I called the landlord. I'm the silent partner on the lease for Unit 402, I said. I'd like to exercise the buyout clause and terminate the lease effective immediately. I'll pay the remaining 3 months today. Well, that's unusual but legal, the landlord said. But what about the equipment inside? The lease states that any abandoned property after a 24-hour notice to quit becomes the property of the leaseholder, I said. And since I'm the leaseholder and she's a subtenant without a contract, well, I'll be there tomorrow at noon with a moving crew. The confrontation was beautiful. My sister showed up at her studio to find the locks changed. I was standing there with 2 guys who were loading her high-end cameras, her ring lights, her designer backdrop chairs, and her luxury wardrobe into a van. "What are you doing?" she screamed, her voice cracking. "That's my equipment. That's my career. This is property left in a unit I just paid to vacate," I said, checking my watch. "The 24-hour notice was taped to the door and emailed to your business account yesterday. You didn't check your email, sissy? Too busy making TikToks. You can't do this. I'll call the police." "Go ahead," I said. "Tell them you're trespassing on a property I legally control. Oh, and the equipment? I'm donating it to the local high school's media department. They actually know how to use it for something other than lying." She tried to lunge at me, but one of the movers, a guy the size of a fridge, stepped in her way. She broke down in the hallway, sobbing that I was robbing her. "I'm not robbing you," I said, leaning down to her level. "I'm auditing you. You spent my money on a Tesla, my name on a lease, and my reputation on a lie. This is just the bill coming due." I walked away as the movers carried out the last of her brand. She was left with nothing but a banned social media account and a mounting legal bill. But the final act, the one that would truly satisfy the ghost of my grandfather, was yet to come. The studio move-out left my sister in a state of total collapse, but she still had my mother in her corner. My mother called me screaming about cruelty and how I was destined to die alone because I didn't value family. "I value family that doesn't steal my identity, Mom," I said. "And since you used your retirement savings to bail her out, you might want to check the conditions of that bail. See, one of the conditions of her bail for the vandalism and identity theft charges was that she refrain from any further criminal activity or contact with the victim." By forging my name on the studio lease renewal, which she had done after the initial arrest to try and secure her workspace, she had committed a new act of fraud. I didn't go to the police this time. I went to the district attorney. "She's a flight risk and a repeat offender," I told the DA, handing over the lease documents. "She's actively trying to monetize her crimes on social media and using the victim's name to secure property while out on bail." The DA didn't need much convincing. My sister's TikTok stunt had actually backfired. The DA's office had seen the video where she admitted to taking the money because she deserved it. In the eyes of the law, that was a confession of intent. The climax happened at our mother's house. I was there with the police to recover a few final items of my grandfather's, a watch and some old photos, that my sister had stolen from the estate settlement. My sister was in the kitchen, eating a bowl of cereal like she hadn't a care in the world. She looked at me and smirked. "You think you're so smart," she said. "But Mom's never going to let you win. I'm her favorite. I'll always be her favorite. You're just the bank." "The bank is closed, sissy," I said. A knock came at the door. 2 officers stepped in. "Sister's name, you're under arrest for violation of your bail conditions. New charges of forgery and fraud have been filed." The smirk vanished. She looked at my mother, who started wailing and trying to block the officers. "You can't take her. I paid the money. I paid the bail. And you're going to lose it, Mom," I said, "because she broke the law again. The bail is forfeited to the state. Your retirement savings? They're gone. Because you chose to protect a thief instead of an honest son." My sister was let out in handcuffs, screaming that I was dead to her. My mother collapsed on the floor, realizing for the first time that her protection had only accelerated the destruction. I stood there, holding my grandfather's watch. It was a simple gold piece worth maybe $500. To my sister, it was just something to hawk. To me, it was the only thing in that house that still felt like home. "I'm leaving, Mom," I said. "Don't call me for the legal fees. Don't call me when the house goes into foreclosure because you can't afford the taxes. You made your choice. I'm just making mine." I walked out the door. The blue plaid Tesla might have been gone, but the feeling of driving away from that house for the last time felt like flying. 6 months later, the dust has finally settled. My sister took a plea deal, 2 years of probation, 500 hours of community service, and a permanent felony record for identity theft. She's working at a grocery store, living in a subsidized apartment, and her influencer dreams are a punchline in our hometown. My mother is living in a small senior living facility. I pay for her rent and her medical care, because despite everything, she's still the woman who raised me, but we don't talk. I send the checks to her facility directly. No middleman. No emergencies. I took the remaining $132,000 from the inheritance and invested it into a scholarship fund for students pursuing degrees in cybersecurity. I figured the best way to honor my grandfather's stability was to help people catch the kind of people my sister tried to be. I'm sitting in my new office today, looking at a photo of my grandfather. He's smiling, standing next to his old beat-up truck. He never needed a Tesla to feel successful. He just needed to know he'd done the right thing. Justice isn't a metallic blue car or a viral video. It's the quiet that comes when you finally stop letting toxic people hold the steering wheel of your life. I'm the one driving now, and the road ahead looks perfect. Subscribe if you want to know how to repo your own life from a family of professional victims, and why the best investment is a solid restraining order.